I'm Paul Edwards, author of the Mourner's Woods books, and first and foremost, a monster kid. Tonight I'm reading Monsters of the Movies magazine, issue 6 from 1975. I thought you might enjoy flipping through this vintage magazine with me. Together, let's see what kinds of monster kid goodness is in here. Monsters of the Movies magazine, issue 6 came out in April 1975, right in the heart of the second wave of monster kids. I was part of this group. I was 9 years old when this came out. I don't remember seeing this one on the newsstand. If I had, I would have snagged it then and there. In this sinister 6th issue spectacular, we get Boris Karloff, Christopher Lee, William Castle, the father of Rosemary's Baby. Mel Brooks is Young Frankenstein, of course. Plus more monsters, creatures, and beasts than you can shake a claw at. Oh my gosh. Wow. I love this cover artwork. This magazine always had great cover artwork. Look at that. All right. Oh, it's the greatest fright film stars of all time. For only $1. There's Igor from Young Frankenstein. There's Lon Chaney Jr. as the Mummy. Yeah. Lon Chaney Jr. as the Mummy again. Phantom Creeps. Blackula. Young Frankenstein, of course. Wait, it's the uncensored version. Okay. The Mummy Chronicles. Oh boy. Boris Karloff, Lon Chaney, Tom Tyler. Well, Boris Karloff, of course, was in the 1932 The Mummy. That's him there. Tom Tyler was the first actor to play the Mummy in the reboot, The Mummy's Hand. But then in the sequels to the reboot, there were 3 of them. Lon Chaney Jr. played the Mummy in all of those. Then, of course, Christopher Lee played the Mummy for Hammer. Can't leave him out. All right, let's see. Yep, there he is, getting caught red-handed. This is a flashback to in ancient Egypt when Karloff's character, Imhotep, was caught performing a sacrilegious act, and his punishment was to be buried alive as a mummy. I love this opening scene where they accidentally revive Imhotep and he shuffles out of his sarcophagus to grab that sacred scroll. That is so creepy. But then the next time in the movie that we see Imhotep, he's out of the bandages. So about 10 years later, they rebooted the intellectual property of the Mummy with The Mummy's Hand. It was a different mummy. It was Kharis, but it was the same basic story. He was a temple official who had been caught doing something he wasn't supposed to, and his punishment was to be buried alive as a mummy. Except this time he stayed in the bandages all through The Mummy's Hand and all through the sequels. Yeah, you know, the Mummy movies, the 1940s Mummy movies, were not perfect, but the Mummy makeup was just great. Just great. You know, it's interesting because Universal Studios' other big monsters, like Frankenstein, Dracula, and the Wolfman, they all had movies with each other. The Mummy was never part of that. He was never invited to the party. He always just stayed in his own movies with no crossovers. This was his last outing, The Mummy's Curse. Well, that was Karis the Mummy's last outing. In Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy in the 50s, there was Clarice the Mummy. But that's not the same character. Ooh. Oh, this is going to be a piece on movie serials. I'm big on movie serials. These were, well, they started in the silent film era, but they were really popular from the 30s through the 50s. Undersea Kingdom, yeah. The Phantom Creeps with Bela Lugosi. The Miracle Rider. There were lots of Western serials. They weren't all science fiction and crime stories. Tons of them were Westerns or adventure films. The Drums of Fu Manchu. I just did a video on this the other day. Drums of Fu Manchu is considered to be one of the best, if not the best, movie serial ever made. It was a Republic one from 1940. Another one that's considered really good is this, Mysterious Dr. Satan. This guy here is Dr. Satan. The hero in this, so Dr. Satan is the bad guy, as you might guess from the name Dr. Satan. The hero in this was supposed to be Superman. This script was written to be a Superman script. But then they couldn't get the legal rights to Superman. The whole thing fell through. So they rewrote the script to make the hero just a regular guy who would put on this mask, this ski mask, and he called himself the Copperhead. But he didn't have any special powers. He was a good fighter, but he didn't have any superpowers. So this serial had the Copperhead go against the mysterious Dr. Satan. And Dr. Satan's master plan was to make an army of robots. He had this one as a prototype, and he used it as his enforcer. But his master plan was to create a whole army of them. That was a really good serial. One thing I can say about both of these serials, Drums of Fu Manchu and Mysterious Dr. Satan, is that they did not commit the crime that a lot of movie serials did, which was to fill later chapters with flashbacks to earlier chapters, just to pad the running time. A lot of movie serials, you'd get to like chapter 9, and then people would be sitting around saying, I can't believe everything that's happened so far, and then they would just show you clips from the previous installments. You know, it was such a blatant attempt to pad the runtime. Neither of these serials did that. Oh yeah. Commando Cody. So if you saw the Star Wars prequel movies and there's a clone in there called Commander Cody, and you're like, that sounds familiar, but I'm not sure exactly where from, it's because there was this old character, Commando Cody. And yes, the Star Wars character is named as a tribute to him. Oh man, Captain America, of course. And the Crimson Ghost. The Crimson Ghost looks like there's more to it than there is. It's just a human being wearing a scary mask. It's not some sort of a monster or spook or special entity or anything. It's just a guy wearing a Halloween mask so that his lackeys won't know his true identity. Oh, Christopher Lee. Okay, so as a kid, I saw The Land That Time Forgot in the theater with a whole bunch of other little boys at some kid's birthday party. We went to the movies for his birthday. And we loved it. I know people laugh at The Land That Time Forgot. But as a kid in the theater in the 70s watching it, we loved it. It was replete with dinosaurs. You can't say there weren't enough dinosaurs in it. And yes, I do know that the pterosaur was just a big kite, but it looked pretty convincing when you were 9 years old. Oh boy. They expect us to read that? Yikes. I think the first thing you have to order is a magnifying glass so you can read the rest of these ads. Good luck if you can read them. Oh, only 95 cents for a ghost. Yeah, but then the ghost haunts your house and they make you pay like $5 to come and remove it. That's how the gimmick works, right? I'm wise to them. Oh, The Man Who Made Monsters. It could be a lot of people, but it's Willis O'Brien, who famously brought King Kong to life via stop motion animation. I would say The Beast of Hollow Mountain is the only cowboy dinosaur movie you'll ever see, but that's not true because there's also The Valley of Gwangi, and Gwangi is actually a better movie. So, oh, Mighty Joe Young. The Lost World, of course. Yikes. But the thing he's going to be most remembered by history for is King Kong, for sure. One of my favorite fantasy scenes in all of movies is Kong's fight with the Tyrannosaurus in the original King Kong. I just love that scene. Young Frankenstein. This was a horror comedy that Mel Brooks made. He didn't dislike the old horror movies. He loved the old horror movies, but he was doing a parody of them because he liked them, not because he didn't like them. This one is a parody of the Universal films, especially Son of Frankenstein in particular. Oh my gosh. You know, I learned something that I had never known before, and this is the kind of thing I should have known. But you know the Aerosmith song Walk This Way? The title actually comes from Young Frankenstein. You know, walk this way, and he shuffles along, and then the other people shuffle along after him. I did not know that. Whoa. Oh, that was quite a change of mood. What, you got a Frankenstein? You got a werewolf? You got a vampire in here? What's going on? You got everybody. Nice. Oh, don't overlook this one. That's kind of spooky. Yikes. Abby, a woman possessed. Yikes. That's Blackula from his sequel, Scream, Blackula Scream. I never got into Doc Savage, but some people just love it. Just love it. William Castle, the skeleton in his closet. So he's the father of Rosemary's Baby in the sense that he, you know, brought the film to life. Yep. One of the he was big on gimmicks for his movies. One of his most famous gimmicks was for a movie called The Tingler, starring Vincent Price. And what happened was the Tingler was a monster that would rise out of people's spinal columns at the moment of death. And so what would happen in the movie theater, if you went to see the movie, is that certain chairs in the theater were wired to vibrate at certain moments. So you'd be sitting there watching the movie, and when the Tingler was popping out of some guy's spine, your chair might activate and your chair might start tingling. So you'd think that the Tingler was getting you. And the one weakness of the Tingler monster was to scream as loud as possible. So if the Tingler was getting you, the solution was to scream sitting there in your theater chair as loud as you possibly could. They don't do gimmicks like that in the theater anymore. Oh. This is a movie that had slipped past me until I was an adult. Strait Jacket, starring Joan Crawford. Yes, Joan Crawford has risen from the grave. Blue Oyster Cult, I know. But way before Mommy Dearest, what people knew Joan Crawford for was that she did have an illustrious film career. Strait Jacket is a slasher-like movie. It's not strictly speaking a slasher movie, but it has a lot of the same tropes as a slasher movie. It is a whodunit about who the crazy killer is. Joan Crawford is worried that it might be her, but it could just as easily not be her. It could just as easily be someone else, and that's a mystery for the audience to solve. But that is a good movie. If you've never seen it, you should check it out. And this is how you spell Strait Jacket, by the way. This is not a mistake. I know this is not how you spell the word straight on its own, but when it's the Strait Jacket, that is how you spell it. S-T-R-A-I-T, Strait Jacket. If you've never seen Joan Crawford in Strait Jacket, you should, right after this video, you should look it up and find it somewhere on YouTube. It's definitely worth seeing. You also get George Kennedy in that, too. There's William Castle. Another gimmick that William Castle did was in a movie where there was a villain, Mr. Sardonicus. And you had to, they went like 3/4 of the way through the movie, maybe 4/5 of the way through the movie. And then they stopped the regular story, and William Castle came on and he said, "What do you think? Has the villain suffered enough, or should something worse happen to him?" And then he would ask the audience to vote by applause whether Sardonicus should get more punishment or whether he should be let off the hook. And theoretically, there were 2 different endings filmed for this movie, and the movie theater you were in that night would put on the ending that the audience voted for. The fact of the matter is there only ever was one ending. So the gimmick was not true. No matter what theater you saw the movie in, the audience vote was always going to be that, yes, we wanted the villain to be punished more. All right. Ooh, Mark of the Vampire. I should start doing a couple videos on these luchador monster movies. Oh, that can only be El Hombre Lobo. The Mummy's Hammer. Hammer Studios had a lot of great monster movies. A lot of people's favorites is Horror of Dracula or Curse of Frankenstein. My favorite is actually The Mummy, the 1959 version of The Mummy. It is so atmospheric and so gloomy and creepy. And Christopher Lee's Mummy scared the heck out of me when I was a kid. This is not Christopher Lee's Mummy. This is from Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. My second favorite Hammer Mummy movie, but it's nowhere near as good as The Mummy. Yeah, this is also Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. I mean, this one is good. They're going real heavy on Curse of the Mummy's Tomb here. What the heck? This is the ending of Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. Good grief. Okay, how can you give more coverage to Curse of the Mummy's Tomb than to Christopher Lee's The Mummy? Psh. Oh well. Ooh, you can learn Kung Fu and Karate from an LP. Wow. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? Oh, and you won't just learn a little bit of it, like a couple of moves or something. You'll be a master of self-defense. Wow. Huh. Uh-huh. What do you suppose they're selling you? What do you suppose they're actually selling you here? If it's just like a booklet full of exercises that kids can do at home, that's fine. I'm hoping they're not selling you some sort of diet supplement or something. And you can check off, what results do you want? What do you want to improve? Arms, chest, back, legs, abdomen, shoulders? Can you check more than one? Because if you only build up one, you're going to look ridiculous. You look like Popeye the Sailor Man, who has an ordinary body except he has these huge forearms. By the way, the reason Popeye has huge forearms is from the sailors, which he was, grabbing and turning pipes aboard the ship. That's why his forearms are big. It was a thing that sailors had big forearms from turning the valves on pipes. It wasn't a deformity. Oh, I remember these. Get all 18 for only $2. Nice. Whoops. Did I miss a page here? Okay, monster masks for every occasion. How many occasions are there where you would want a monster mask? Halloween, okay. Costume party, okay. Conceivably, April Fool's Day to pull a prank on someone, okay. Other than that, unless you're under 12 years old and you're playing out in the yard, playing monsters, I mean, then I guess they're perennial, but I don't think there are that many occasions that you need a monster mask for. Oh, of course, bank robbery. I should have thought of that. Yeah. Nice. Oh. Tales of the Zombie, a paltry 75 cents. Oh. Oh. Remember this ad? This ad ran for years in comic books, monster and science fiction magazines, any publication that kids were the prime audience for. And what you did was, theoretically, you could win all these prizes. You had to sell their stuff for them. And instead of getting a commission, you would get points towards whatever the goodie was that you wanted, and some were worth more points than others. That was your commission. You know, to me, that has racket written all over it. I'll guide you step by step into your own thriving business, will you? Well, I've been self-employed for over 30 years, and I didn't need any magazine coupon advice to keep me afloat, so thanks anyway. Who's smiling now? This is more worthwhile. At least you're learning something here. Monsters of the Movies, I think, was the best of the many magazines that emulated famous monsters of filmland. This one really was good. The article quality was much better than in some similar publications. And the covers were always great. I wish this magazine had run longer. It only lasted 10 or 12 issues. But the ones that they put out, though, are superb. If you enjoy classic monsters and vintage horror, look into my book series, The Mourner's Woods books. I'm self-published on Amazon. I've written a series of novels that take place in a haunted forest. Different monsters in each book. They're all self-contained stories. You don't have to have read one to understand another one. I'll drop a link to my books in the description for this video. My name again is Paul Edwards. My books are the Mourner's Woods books. Thanks for looking through Monsters of the Movies issue number 6 with me. I'll see you in Mourner's Woods.